Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and I'm here at the Department of Public Safety to announce some new technology that's going to be very helpful in crime detection. And the people that are most involved in it are the ones that will have a chance to explain it and try to tell you exactly how this cutting-edge equipment is going to make a big difference for us. I'm joined here by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, the Commissioner Sheriff of the Department of Public Safety, Tom Gleason, Chief Inspector John Hodges, a number of other senior managers. Tom will take the effort to introduce the rest of his team that's here. This device is a forensic vacuum metal deposition technology equipment. And of course, given the fact that my background is in political science, not science, I'm the wrong person to explain this to you. But I am smart enough to know that this is an example of the professionalism in our public Department of Public Safety, their willingness to always look for new ways to do things more efficiently, to try to provide the men and women that we have out in the field with the opportunity to get the best chance of catching criminals. And so I'm going to let Tom Gleason, our Commissioner Sheriff, take it from here, introducing some of his team members and explaining the process and how great this step forward is today. Tom?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, boss. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the county executive for his support for the work that's being done here in the Forensics Investigation Unit and Westchester County Police. We're so pleased he's able to join us today as we unveil our newest technology in our Forensic Crime Laboratory. The Forensic Investigation Unit has obtained the new vacuum metal deposition technology, we call it the VMD machine, which will enable our detectives to obtain latent prints from items that previously yielded little or no fingerprints of value. These items include fired ammunition, plastic bags, thermal paper, money, wood, and articles of clothing. The VMD machine can also obtain latent prints from items that were submerged underwater or exposed to high heat, conditions that usually destroy fingerprint evidence. The technology works by inserting a sliver of metal, gold, silver, or copper, into the machine, and then it vaporizes it to cover the item of evidence. The process exposes fingerprints that otherwise would have gone undetected or would have been impossible to lift using traditional means. So we believe this technology will be valuable not only in current investigations, but in reprocessing evidence associated with cold cases. The VMD technology has lifted latent prints off of evidence that's more than 20 years old. The equipment is not only for county police cases, but also available to assist every municipal police department in Westchester. The FIU Crime Lab supports all police departments in the county, and this equipment is the latest way to ensure we're doing all that is possible to help all departments in the county. Any agency can bring their evidence here, we'll process it, and if appropriate, we'll use the VMD technology. Our FIU detectives is second to none in terms of their expertise, not only in the area of latent prints, but in ballistics, crime scene, and digital evidence. Our FIU Crime Lab regularly is assessed by outside experts to ensure that we're meeting the best practices and the highest professional standards. And actually, let me take the time now to introduce some of the key people here. Obviously, Chief John Hodges, the county executive mentioned already, and Lieutenant James Palanzo, Sergeant James Harrison, who supervised the unit, Detective Rich Vandermeulen, one of our senior detectives in the unit, and there's a couple other that are hiding in the background that we'll introduce later. But this is an exciting addition to our crime lab. When the detectives came to me with this proposal to buy this piece of equipment, it was a big investment, but you'll see in some of the demonstrations how important this can be. And the good news is, and I don't even know if the county executive has been told this yet, but there was no tax levy money used to purchase this equipment. It was bought with asset forfeiture money seized from bad guys. So no tax levy expense for this piece of equipment. So again, I want to thank you all for coming. If you have any more technical questions, I'll defer to the experts behind me who can explain exactly how the machine works and what they're hoping to do with it.
Do we have any display that we're going to share with the press?
Yeah, Jim, would you like to, one of you guys like to explain?
Sure.
This is Sergeant James Harrison. He's the commanding officer of the unit.
Everyone, thanks for coming. I'd like to thank the county executive and the deputy county executive for being here, as well as command staff and the rest of my unit. I'd like to answer any questions you have, but as I directed before, we have a couple of physical examples here in front of you about how this technology works, if you'd like to see that. Perhaps the most demonstrative is the photograph hanging up on the wall behind. The left side shows our traditional methods of processing, and you can see that basic pattern has been revealed from a fingerprint. To the right is what the loud, noisy, hot machine behind me has produced. You can see the contrast is glaring, and we hope to make a difference with our investigations. One other thing is we were able to use this machine to develop fingerprints and also impressions in areas previously we have not been able to. For example, we prepared this for everyone. So what we have here is a pillowcase to simulate a smothering of a person. It would be innocuous and not observed before, but you can see the outline of a face here. You can see a touch where a hand was pressed, and you can also collect a DNA from this as well, from targeted areas where you're not going to have interference or dilution from randomly searching this if you had to. So it increases time and efficiency and demonstration for a jury.
Talk a little bit about the preservation of DNA after evidence goes through the machine.
So this machine basically uses inert metals to make invisible things visible. Research papers and independent studies have shown that there is a very low interference with DNA. I'm not allowed to say that there's zero, but it's a very low amount. We've recently completed some validation studies and verification studies with our own labs and research up the street. They do DNA testing in support of Westchester County. Their studies have confirmed what independent studies have also suggested. At this point, we feel confident that we can use this technology without further encumbering DNA recovery, down the road.
Open it up to questions.
Yeah, can you describe what you did before, what the result was, and how this works now, what the result is? Just compare the old.
You got it. Thank you for that question. The science of fingerprints has been kind of static for around 100 years or so. Maybe not 100 years, but 50 years. We used fingerprint powder and different chemicals depending on the surface and what the goal was to develop something. Usually the results are around 4%, right around there. 100 items will come in, 4% of the time we'll get a usable fingerprint out of it. With this machine, we're hoping the numbers are significantly higher. I don't know, that's about it. If it's more of a technical question, I'd like to refer that to one of our experts, actually.
So if the old was 4%, people all argue
Some studies have suggested 30%, 40%. I'm not confident at that point to state that yet. We're still rolling this out, but I'm hoping for it to be a lot larger than 4%. Sure.
So it goes beyond fingerprints in your
It can
application?
Sure, that's a great question. It can show impression evidence in general. There is some fingerprint detail here on the cloth. Because as it's cloth and there's a thread count and it's an uneven surface, you may not develop an identifiable fingerprint. The point of developing evidence this way is to focus later DNA collection. You're not swabbing the entire pillowcase for DNA and obliterating something or losing something. You're targeting in on where most likely this was touched by someone.
Other questions that you have specifically? You're welcome to do any one-on-one interviews with any of these folks separately and go into some greater detail. Tom, anybody else want to?
One other thing I just wanted to mention, that at least as of this time, this is only the second machine that's in use in law enforcement in New York State. NYPD has one, and we're the second one in the state to have one.
I'll just wrap up our general comments by saying that this points out something that's very important all across county government. In every department of county government, we have people who are professionals in every single area of endeavor. When we speak about how we're going to handle the coronavirus, we have professionals in the Department of Health, medical doctors, public health professionals, nurses who work for us who are expert in dealing with that. When we deal with issues of the correctional institution, our county jail, we have people who run that department who are experienced and expert in those areas, as we do here in the Department of Public Safety. These are men whose life has been in law enforcement, and they are now applying the most recently available technology to use it for that. And I highlight that because many times those of us who are in elective office are the face of the government, but the real face of the government are these gentlemen behind me, the ones that do this work every day. They're not necessarily comfortable being in front of a camera to be interviewed. That's somebody else's skill. But in terms of what they know and how they apply it, this is how we capture criminals. And when we capture criminals and bring them to proper justice, then we're protecting the public, and that's what they've done so brilliantly. So with that, I'll stop these comments. If there are any questions on any other topics that you'd like to talk with me about, I'll be available to do that interview after you've had the chance to talk to any of these folks on this particular topic. So,
Price tag.
$160,000.
obtained through asset forfeiture funds, not tax funds. Good reminder. All right, we thank you for this in general. If you want to talk to any of these guys individually, we'll do that now. I'll wait, and then if you want to talk to me personally on any of the other issues that might be on the table, we'll do that too. Okay? Fellas?
The fingerprints hasn't changed. This is an additional piece of technology. Right? So we can still use the same processes. We can use the same chemicals. We can use basic fingerprint powder. We can use cyanoacrylate. We can use iodine, ninhydrin, sticky site powder. There's an array of chemicals and processes which we can use. This is nice. This is the first new piece of technology that's come around in a long time, the vacuum metal deposition chamber. This works a little differently, and what we've seen so far, not only through the company's testing, but through our own testing, our own validation studies, is that this works much better. We use different chemicals or different metals in here, either gold, silver, copper, or zinc, and different substrates you would use different chemicals for. So for paper, we would actually evaporate a very thin layer of gold onto the evidence. For an item such as brass, say shell casings, we would evaporate silver and possibly zinc to develop fingerprints. We find that this is a better system than what we already have. What's also nice about this, we can use this first and then use our other chemicals. It doesn't interfere with the other chemicals. Right? And we're currently doing a validation study with our Department of Laboratories and Research up the street to determine if we're going to cause a problem with future DNA development on the evidence. So far it looks like we're going to be okay. I can do a demonstration of paper. If people want to just touch something, maybe you can, if we develop something, you can bring it home to your kids or something, or I can just use mine. Yeah? The whole process takes about 4 minutes if you want to bring the cameras in. So the chamber now is under a strong vacuum, so we're allowing it to reach atmospheric pressure, and then we can open up the door and we can put our evidence in. Whenever we process evidence, we also run a control test. So the idea of a control test is knowing that your machine and your chemicals work. It's simply by placing a fingerprint on a test sample, and if it develops, you know the machine's working.
They were asking for Patty prints on.
Oh, yeah.
Just put my fingerprint on.
Put view on the wall on the right side.
Sure. So the idea of the magnets is to keep it in place when the vacuum starts. A very small piece of gold is put on an evaporation boat.
80 cents. 80 cents. Right? I know that number, 80 cents.
And a very small piece of zinc. Also. So it takes a little while to reach pressure.